My name is Mathezr Bresak. 4 generations ago, my ancestors made contact with a civilization known as humanity. While they initially promised to solve all our problems we faced on our planet, they deceived us, occupying our homeworld of Malonius and oppressing my fellow Malonics for a century. Within that time, there arose numerous rebel factions, but the strongest one was the Malonic Liberation Army, a military which I chose to serve in to help free Malonius from the human imperialists. After some surprise attacks that drove us to a hidden stronghold, we encountered a society known as the Wayakmong, who chose to help us by training me and several of my comrades to become an elite force of soldiers known as the Imperial Busters. After liberating Malonius and the other planets in our solar system, as well as a few of our extrasolar colonies, we set our sights on Earth to try and end the war swiftly. While I remain concerned about what might happen once we reach the surface, I know that it is a necessary mission if we wish to defeat our human oppressors. I stared out the window of the flagship of the Malonic Liberation Army, looking across the atmosphere of Earth below. My friend Cixin stood by me. In order to mount our attack on Earth, we had partnered with the other main Malonic rebel movements, as this will be the largest battle that we will have waged, necessitating substantial reinforcements. "You know, Mathezr," Cixin told me, "you should let us help you in this last battle. I know you are accomplished, and each group will be targeting a specific continent, but I think us Wayakmong might have something to bring to the table. While I am suspicious of the Wayakmong because they seem to be a nomadic species, and private about the inner workings of their society, I feel that they are just as valuable as the other factions we will be working with. Inform Oatsk," I suggested. "It's up to him." Even though the Wayakmong might help us in this event, I'm not sure that Cixin is the best choice for a military operation. He nodded, then walked off the bridge to discuss the possibility with his compatriots. His departure reminded me of the strategy conference, which I went to immediately. I walked into the meeting room of the ship, where the leaders of the other factions were present. There was Krethios Mahrak, the leader of the Strong Fist faction, clothed in a fitted orange uniform that barely contained his bulky frame, and his assistant Messior Ketal. Next to him was Zumchoi Wat, the leader of the Technolog faction, with his only original part of his body being the head and spinal cord fastened to his cybernetic body. The others were Lim Fass, the leader of the Mad Pilots, and Porya Seldaf, the leader of the Malonic Restoration Corps. This strategy meeting would not be easy, as each faction has its own agendas and beliefs. The Strong Fists believe that all problems Malonius face can be solved by militarism and the power of the strongest. The Technolog believe that the problem with Malonius was how natural we were, and that all problems could be solved through excessive bodily augmentation with technology. The Mad Pilots are just adrenaline junkies, and get thrills out of terrorizing humanity with suicide missions and acts of terror. Other than that, they have no real purpose other than letting Malonics live as they choose. The Malonic Restoration Corps has the closest beliefs to the Malonic Liberation Army. Though there is one principal difference. The Restoration Corps seeks to just restore the old order and balance of power, while the Malonic Liberation Army wants to improve the lives of our fellow men and free the other civilizations from the iron thumb of the Renda Emperor. I took my seat with them, and we began to discuss our plans. Earth is smaller than Malonius and many other Malonic colony worlds, so it will be easier to take than the other planets we have freed. Aside from the 2 polar caps, which are sparsely settled and mainly focused on the distribution of clean water to arid regions of the planet and production of hydrogen for fusion energy, there are 3 regions of importance. The first is a landmass known as the Americas, which is long and has a relatively uniform distribution of the population. The second is the landmass known as Afro-Eurasia, which has a sparser population in the region known as Africa, and the highest concentration in a megacity in a region known as East Asia. The third is a collection of islands in the Pacific Ocean, with some such as Japan and Indonesia being relatively powerful and densely populated, while others such as Australia and Hawaii have lower population densities and are economically weaker. With the main regions of Asia, known as India, Thailand, and China, having the densest populations, they will have the highest concentrations of military power and defenses. They are especially stronger around New Xanadu, the world capital of Earth. As we surveyed the city blocks, we found a few small clearings among the buildings our shuttles could land at. As we mapped the routes toward the Imperial Palace, we determined that we would have to move fast. There were a few sewers and emergency evacuation routes under the city we could use to reach the palace of the Renda Emperor. But it would be risky. Yet we all knew that it had to be done if we wanted to see our own civilization freed from the oppression of humanity. As I made my way to the hangar of the ship with several of my men and a pilot, Mathezr joined me. He had a large black canister in his hand with a lid that had a handle on it. "Oh, said I could go," he told me. "Mathezr," I asked, "what is in that canister?" He diverted his gaze from me. As we climbed into the shuttle, I knew instantly that I might have made a mistake. The Waekmong's privacy had facilitated Mathezr keeping the contents of the canister from being known to me. Several hours passed before we landed in New Xanadu. The dark, imposing buildings flashed with residual signage left on, indicating that the advertisement agencies lacked sponsors. There were a few abandoned cars in the street, along with a few genetically engineered pets that had escaped from homes, but the city was desolate. I stepped out of the shuttle and readied my guns. Mathezr followed me, letting the canister hang by his side. He had clutched it close to his torso the entire ride down, it making me think it could be some weapon of mass destruction. After the rest of the soldiers exited the shuttle, we made our way through the city. The shuttle then returned into the exosphere, ready to rescue us when we had completed our mission of forcing the Renda Emperor into a ceasefire and leaving our civilization alone. On the other side of the city, the Strong Fist and the Malonic Restoration Corps are landing to help us, so we can all converge on the Imperial Palace. As we sneaked among the buildings, I was startled by a billboard showing an image of the Renda Emperor himself. The scarlet gold-hemmed collar of his robes pointed directly to his broad, angular face and black, bushy hair. Out of his almond-shaped eyes, I saw a pair of pupils in each surrounded by a green iris, a trait no other human I have seen bear that every Renda Emperor has endured. "So, I see you have decided to test our might," he said. "I see you all. I know all your movements. You may have liberated your planet for a little while, but we will take it again. Like your honorable governor said, foxes may adapt to their environment and survive, but they can be trapped." I dodged between the high-rises with Mathezr and my men, seeking shelter from the hideous face. "Oh yeah, Mathezr, I've heard all about you," he continued. "You took control of Malonius once again. You and your species nobility, is that it? Let me tell you something. I know why you're here. You've come to try and demand peace from me and my court. Oh yeah, Rear Takai told it all to me. The strange aliens you made contact with, the training, the portable microwave weaponry, and bi-directional wormholes using one Stargate. You think you're the epitome of creation, or evolution, or the universe, or whatever you want to call it. But you're just animals." I sneaked out the back door of a boba tea shop, running down the street. My men and Mathezr matched my pace. Now that the Renda Emperor was watching us, we felt a sense of urgency to end the affair as soon as possible. "And like animals, you shall die," he continued. "You miss your brother, don't you, Mathezr?" I stopped in my tracks. The Renda Emperor is more of a brute than I thought, as I have been able to resist all of his taunts until that one. Opening emotional wounds, he was trying to distract me. "Well, buddy," he continued, "what if I told you that you could see your brother tonight, and you could be surrounded by all your men? That's where our mutual friends come in. I know your position. I don't know which ones are with you, since I'm just receiving reports of your movements, from the Internal Defense Ministry, and seeing you all as flashing dots on my screen. However, I do know that the Tromokoriosi will end your goals. They will also hunt down your friends all across the city. Enjoy the afterlife, if you believe in it, Mathezr. That was when I experienced pure terror. 5 large insectoid creatures descended upon us. One of them grabbed Svonarak with his foreclaws, paralyzing him. Afterwards, he stuck a long proboscis into his neck and proceeded to suck. He appeared to become softer and more pliable, then shrunk as the monster sucked his innards out before stuffing the carcass in its jaws. I aimed my microwave rifle at one that was lumbering towards me and Thexer, causing it to explode. "Mathezr!" Therios shouted at me. "Complete the mission! We'll handle these beasts!" I then turned around to face him. I saw a Tromokorios stalk towards him, paralyzing him, then consuming him. After the morbid destruction of my friend, the monster turned to face me and sprinted towards me. I turned around and fled, with Thexer running beside me. "Oh yeah, Mathezr," I heard the Renda Emperor say. "If you're still alive, you see what I'm capable of. If you're dead, I'll say this to your men. Your leader is gone. Your bastion of hope, your idol, your hero, is dead. You have nothing left to fight for. Just turn yourselves over, and I'll spare you. If you like the military, you can be the chief generals of the Malonic colonies when we reconquer them. If not, I'll offer you whatever position you truly desire." Well, the hero my men idolized was still alive, and he was running to the Renda Emperor's palace to make him pay for all the generational trauma he created on my homeworld and the fear his predecessors created for countless other species. Amid the distractions of the billboard spewing the Emperor's demoralizing temptations, the shock I faced from my friends being eaten by humanity's new monsters, and the fact that Tromokorios was trailing me as fast as it could run, my attention turned to Thexer's container. What was in it? I saw Krethios Mahrak ahead, lifting a grate out of the road. Several strong-fist soldiers squeezed through the aperture. "Get down there!" he shouted. I and Thexer plunged into the darkness below. I heard the grate pulled over the hole and the thud of the Tromokorios above, stalking us. I then felt a strong surge of water splash into my face as Krethios fell into the sewage. He stood up a few seconds later. "The sewer will take us to the Imperial Palace," he said. "Me and my men will assault the exterior of the palace while you get into the courtyard through a smaller duct." "Can you accompany us?" I asked, then realizing my mistake. While the Wayakmong's training had caused my muscles to notably grow in size, most strong-fist soldiers were nearly twice my bulk, and some even had bulging stomachs testifying to the high-calorie diets each ate to maintain their hulking size. None of them would be able to fit through the smaller grate within the courtyard. It would only be me and Thexer, and his mysterious canister, once we reached the palace. We slogged through the sewers for several hours, coming to the grate under the palace. Krethios would continue on to the larger grate outside the palace grounds. I pushed the courtyard grate out of its place, and I and Thexer crawled out. For being the Renda Emperor's stronghold, the Imperial Palace lacked sophisticated security. Guards were even absent. The fur along the back of my neck and shoulders stood on end, as I recalled a similar scene when we landed in New Xanadu a few hours earlier. I drew my pistol and ran into the palace, feeling that there was something bad awaiting us at some point. As we sprinted through the halls, lined in velvet and neon, I became increasingly paranoid. Then we reached the throne room. The Renda Emperor sat on a crystal throne with leather cushioning. He was surrounded by all of his advisors and royal court, mostly comprising humans, Coriad, and members of felid species known as the Ye-Par. The former members of the Malonic puppet governments were also present. The purple neon and scarlet velvet and leather of the room emphasized the sinister mood I had sensed since we left the sewer. "So, Mathezr," the Renda Emperor said, "I see you've joined me. I knew you'd make it. So, let's hear your proposal." As I opened my mouth, he interrupted me. "I know what you're gonna say. Live at peace with a free Malonius, or you'll rain fire on our pretty little planet with your ships." Oh, I've heard this speech many times. You know, you think you're the heroes, but you're not. We're the heroes. Let me explain myself. Millennia ago, we had experienced a tumultuous period of our history. At the time, we thought our civilization had peaked. We had invented artificial intelligence, nuclear energy, genetic engineering, reusable spacecraft. But we had one flaw we failed to overcome. Some said it was because society was too uniform, that we needed to find new ways to live. We eventually reached the stars. As we spread, we encountered numerous civilizations, and we waged war with them, usually after we had been deceived into joining forces with them. That was when we realized the problem. It wasn't that people didn't have enough avenues to express themselves. It was that we had created too many niches people could fill. As a result, we changed our global paradigm. Want to end wars? Get rid of nation-states. Want to end debates about too much or too little technology? Control what kinds and how many innovations each generation receives to ensure we are always progressing, and kill anyone who promotes any deviation from the norm. Think religion's debating is what is causing so much division? Make the subjects keep their spiritual ideas to themselves. Want to stop being abused by aliens? Conquer them before they conquer you. For 4 centuries, the Empire of Sol has slowly grown, and is now rapidly expanding. We are assimilating aliens every few years now instead of decades. And how do we maintain peace and order throughout our corner of the universe? We break them into submission, and if they don't obey, we turn their homeworlds into hell. A few were smart and obeyed immediately. Others were eliminated completely. Right now, Mathezr, your species is at a crux. If we let your species live free, you will eventually become a blight to the universe, since you insist on maintaining your own little patch of space for yourself to fester in. Eventually, you'll want to expand, and you'll bring suffering to the rest of the galaxy. That's why we need you to surrender. It's your species' life for 10,000 generations, or your eventual extinction. You're wrong, I contradicted him. We're not like you. We may be flawed, but you and your royal ideology is the true blight to the galaxy. You force yourselves onto people who are weak for the taking, like my ancestors, and then you twist it into some noble crusade to purify the galaxy of tribalism, technocracy, and ecological disasters. Well then, the Renda Emperor stood up. Let me help you with your decision. I saw a small pistol come out of his sleeve. He pointed it at my chest before I had time to raise my rifle. I then felt a pain in my chest and a burning sensation. I then realized he had a microwave pistol and was causing the cells of my heart to weaken. As I dropped my gun and clutched my chest in pain, he descended the leather steps to his throne, encircling me as I writhed in pain. Your soldiering days are over, Mathezr, he said as he circled me like a predator about to strike its prey. We learned how to make portable microwave weaponry from the weapons you left behind when you retreated from Malonius and Tessiab. The walls of your heart are now paper-thin, and the valves are weak. If you run for prolonged periods of time, it'll give out and you'll die. However, I'm kind enough to let you live. Surrender yourself now, and I'll give you a new heart. You can go back to your original life. Heck, you can even be the governor of Malonius, since you have earned quite a following. All you have to do is join me. I'll never join you, I grunted. Suit yourself, then, he said. Then Mathezr did the unexpected. He stomped right into the Renda Emperor's personal space, startling him. Actually, you've met your demise, Mathezr defied, grabbing the side of the canister with his other hand and twisting the handle at the top. A hidden light then turned violet, showing a change in status. Since you've told us about your culture, I'll tell you about mine. That was when I learned more than I wanted to about his species and about the canister's contents. The Waekmong had once been a powerful race. Although they remained within their star cluster, they had developed a rich civilization. However, it all ceased to exist as a result of a colonial war. The Waekmong had genetically engineered themselves to be best suited for the roles and environments they would live in, eventually creating an intense form of tribalism as incredibly niche groups fought for dominance. Additionally, the Wayakmong had invented the ultimate doomsday weapon, self-replicating nanobots that could feed off of any material. In order to quell the war on the colonies, the Wayakmong from the planet they originated on dispersed them into the atmospheres of the rebel colonies. Within a few hours, the nanobots would consume the entirety of the planet, leaving no traces of it behind. While fear of the weapon scared some colonies into submission, one faction raided a Wayakmong warship, took a sample of nanobots, then launched it towards the Wayakmong homeworld. Just when the government of the Wayakmong thought they had won, they had experienced the apocalypse. The nanobots consumed their homeworld right down to what was once the mantle. The ships that had survived the attack went on a rampage, and colonies attacked each other with the nanobots until nothing was left of the Wayakmong's interstellar empire. The descendants of every fleet soon realized their mistake. Although neither party united, the groups on ships from each fleet decided to travel to a different galaxy to warn others about extreme tribalism and unity, hoping to use the destruction of their species as the prime cautionary tale. Humanity failed to learn the lesson on their own, Mathezr continued. So, I know you won't take it from us. However, I will say this. The canister in my arms contains a sample of the planet-consuming nanobots, ready to disperse if I lift this lid and release their containment capsule. So, if you kill Mathezr, I'll destroy this planet, and if you kill me, you'll unleash the same destruction, since the handle will notice that I'm not holding onto the canister anymore. I saw the Renda Emperor's narrow eyes widen substantially in terror. He knew he had met his demise. "Why?" he gasped. "You!" Mathezr began to lift the lid. The entire court screamed in terror. The Emperor fell to Mathezr's feet. "So," Mathezr continued as he replaced the lid, "if you want to see your planet live another day, there's going to be some conditions that apply." The Emperor nodded. "First, give my friend a new heart so he can live the life he wants. Second, I want you to sue for peace with the Malonics. Third, I want you to send your ambassadors to all your territories, declaring that they are now free to operate as they wish and apologize for your oppression. Lastly, I want you to abdicate the throne and let civilization develop as it chooses." "How can you do this to us?" the Renda Emperor shouted. "Because of my friends the bots. Now, if you don't want me to lift the lid, and you truly care about yourself, or galactic peace, or whatever it is, I want you to meet all of my demands within 1 of your weeks." Then, adding with a stronger tone, he concluded, "And no delays." After years of oppressing our people, and years of Malonic rebel factions fighting against the Renda Emperor, we had finally achieved true peace with the aid of the Wayakmong. I still think about that speech Mathezr made every now and then. Things have changed a lot in the last 5 years. Humanity surrendered its vast empire, and all 13 civilizations under the defunct Empire of Sol now live as they choose. Even humanity has developed new nation-states on Earth and its colonies. With many new perspectives permeating our little portion of the universe, there have been numerous innovations in technology and philosophy that have benefited society as a whole. When I returned from a victory on Earth, I settled back in Osirax. Some wanted me to be the supreme world leader. I declined, and restored the old world form of Malonius and individual nation-states, so everyone had a say in governing our local, global, and interstellar affairs. Instead, I am now the chief of the Mathezr army, which is now spreading peace and prosperity instead of the fear it perpetrated in the years leading up to the human invasion. Within that time, each civilization made true peace with one another, and the Wayakmong of our galaxy now ferry species from world to world. In fact, the 13 races that were once part of the Empire of Sol now coexist with 200 other races from various interstellar coalitions and empires, and trade thrives. Everyone is becoming increasingly prosperous, and a bright future is ahead of us. Even the Wayakmong have found a new homeworld, and are terraforming it to their needs. I often stroll with my wife along the skyway of our condominium block, looking at the skyline of Osirax. When we have children, I will be able to tell them of the history of our race and point to the exact buildings where certain events took place. Today, I got in my car and drove to the countryside with Mathezr and my wife. We eventually came to the foothills of the mountain range where Kesark Bastion was located. After parking, we ascended a flight of stairs to its apex, where a statue of my deceased brother, Semchar, triumphantly stood. Several Malonics and humans were standing around it, admiring it. I had commissioned it so future generations would remember our struggles and learn from them. On a plaque at its base was his biography, and a call to action for future generations. I had been sacrificed to end an oppressive ruler. To end the perpetual deaths of those like me, be mindful about how you rule and how you maintain your authority, because if you do it wrong, you could cause the demise of your civilization. As I read it, I looked up into the evening sky. While Semchar should not have died, his sacrifice had motivated me to restore freedom to the Malonics. While civilizations will continue to rise and fall, and there will be oppressors and servant leaders, the tumultuous Malonic Liberation War had created a universe richer than fantasy many could now enjoy, and will continue to partake in for generations to come.